trying to see how that works. There it is. Perfect. All right, so I am working. All right, so hello everybody. Yesterday, I did the Start with Occupancy. I did the Start with Occupancy workshop, and it's on YouTube and on the YouTube channel. Today, I decided, because a lot of people know more about my Facebook page than my YouTube channel, so that's why I'm doing it over here. And then what I will do is record and upload it to YouTube as a recorded workshop. So yesterday we went over, just to kind of get you up to date if you missed it. I see you're online. If you can give me a thumbs up or a heart, let me know that you can hear me good. And if you can tell me what city and what state you're in, that would be great, because senior living is fragmented and rules change. Hey Esther, how are you? Rules change depending on your state. What doesn't change is how you connect with families and how you operate your business in terms of connecting with residents, connecting with families, and connecting with your staff. That's not going to change. And so, nice to have you here, Esther. Don't know if you got to see yesterday, but we talked about the very beginning of when you're looking at opening and you're having to start, what some of the things you should be looking for. And so today we're going to talk about market analysis. And so market analysis, hey, Miss Nanette, how are you? Cool. So market analysis in any business, it's the same, to be honest, but I'm going to do it towards senior living and opening up a senior living community or a residential assisted living. Some people, hey there, some people purchase an already existing senior living. And you know what? I had a notebook and I just left it in my other room. What I did for the last hour and a half was go through an assisted living investment group thread just to see what are people asking. And the top things that people are asking is about funding. People need money to run a business, right? The second thing is that I see that people are in need of is marketing. And what's so interesting to me is there's a lot of people, and maybe because I'm in a group where this is the focus of the group, but I see it all over the internet where there's a lot of people looking to go into the business with no experience, no nothing, and they're just like, I need a mentor, I need someone to come and just show me how to do this. And that's great, but it's not a but, it's great, because we need more people in the business to service the amount of people who are aging and who will need care. There is a large amount, at least in Florida, of aging adults who are here without their families or they have outlived their families. And there is a whole situation with people, the way the senior living is in the big box, it kind of prices out people who didn't have advantage in their younger years to grow equity in their homes or to have a big investment portfolio, things like that. That's changing with each year that, comes, that's going. But it is traditionally widespread known that baby boomers did not save as much as even their parents. And so we have a situation. And there's an article that was done, I believe, in the Wall Street, maybe it was the Washington Post. And I will link it in the comments about homelessness amongst the aging. It is something that is happening. And so we need more people like you, Esther, to come and to buy homes or to start assisted livings. No problems there. Where I want to encourage people is to make sure that you are with a program that's going to help you if you're new in this business to learn the business. And so what I might give out in free information between everything, I'm hoping is going to be a help for people, as well as my paid programs as well. So with that being said, and I see you guys there. Perfect. So, what I want to talk to you guys about today is the market analysis. So, market analysis is the practice of understanding where your home already is if you're buying a new one, if it was already an existing community, is asking specific questions about that community so that you can kind of get a feel of number one, are you paying the right amount of money? You shouldn't be paying top dollar for a community that is not top dollar in occupancy. So, because that means there's work on your part, right? But you want to make sure that the market that is in, what does that look like? It's going to depend on what you're offering, set the stage for the pricing for you. It's also going to set the stage for you in terms of the growth. As you have this multiple years, what does that demographic look like? Is it in an area where there's a lot of homeowners who own their home outright? So you kind of know that it's an older, more established area. Is it an area that's the pricing of the homes is a little bit lower than some of the other areas? So you know that, okay, what is the demographic, meaning like the income level, because you might want to offer affordable housing, which is needed in senior care. So if that's what you're looking for, then you want to make sure that you put the home or that you purchase the home in that area. Traditionally, people do not want their loved one to live more than 3 to 5 miles from either where they work or where they live. So that is important to understand that when you're looking and grabbing at who's going to be your residents, you look within a 5-mile radius, and that is typically where you're going to be pulling from. So the way that I looked at my market analysis, we used to call it a heat map, is basically what area is the people who own their homes in that area and who live there, who's over 65 or 75. We say 75, right? Or where do people who are between, let's say, 45 and 65 live? Because now that's usually the family member. And is their homes in that area, and what their income level is. And then we also look at what businesses are around that area that people may work. If you're in a high concentration of a lot of office complexes, then you know that you have opportunities where there's family caregivers who are still working that would want to have their loved one there where they can swoop in the morning, have breakfast, check on them, maybe come in for lunch, maybe come in after work, things like that. So thinking about what is convenient for that adult caregiver is really important. Believe it or not, there has been some situations too where if there's a large church that's also in the mix, that has some opportunities there. And I say large because we have mega churches now. So if there's people who go to a mega church and it's around that area, that can be also an attraction. Because then I look at also partnerships, also being near a hospital, near a skilled nursing facility where there's rehab that's done, not long-term care. I mean, obviously there is long-term care in every skilled nursing facility, but where there is, let's say rehab. So in every skilled nursing facility, they have the rehab side and the long-term care side where people live. So if you have a few skilled nursing facilities that's around your home where there is rehab is the majority of what they're doing, then there's opportunity there. And the reason why I say there's opportunity there is because they're consistently having people be fed in from the hospital, but then they're also have to be discharged because they have to keep their what they call census up daily for them to make money. So they're constantly getting people in from the hospital. So looking at what is around you is important, not a sole decision making, but when you're starting to look at marketing and who you're marketing to, and what's convenient, and what are the families going to say when they come and visit you. What are going to be some of their barriers? Sometimes location is a barrier for some families. So looking at how you're positioned and the location, can be important. Unless again, your goal is to serve people in a more rural area, because they need help too. And so if you're serving a need in a particular area that there's not a whole lot of competition around, then it makes sense, right? So everything has to make sense based off of your market analysis and what your goals are in your head for marketing, what you're wanting to do. Does this make sense? Just give me a thumbs up if it does. And so that is one of the things when you're looking at your market analysis, you're looking at the income level. And why does the income level matter? Because you're looking at depending on where you want to be in pricing. And some of the things that you're looking at too is, okay, if I have a house, I have how many, I call them apartments, but how many bedrooms do I have that I can serve how many residents? Some states you can put 2 people in 1 bedroom if the bedroom is a certain size, and sometimes if a bathroom is accessible, depending on how the layout is of the home. So then it can help you be either a 6, what they call a 6-person community to a 8-person community, because maybe you have 2 apartment or 2 rooms that you can have 2 people in, and that could be a deciding factor. The same thing if you have a 12 bedroom situation, maybe 2 of those bedrooms can become double occupancy, what they call double occupancy. And so again, how do you set pricing for that? Obviously the pricing is going to be lower to make it affordable. Obviously for some people where financing is a barrier for them, that can give them the affordable option. Okay, so when you're also looking at market analysis, let me get my other thing here. Hold on. You are also looking at the viability, meaning also, is there growth in that area? Is that area transitioning? What is happening? I like to say, if you find an area where there's a Publix or a grocery store being built, and not where everything's in the very, very beginning, but where you see that there's a lot of development happening, or if you are looking at, when you're looking at places, another good one is where there's a lot of companies moving into an area. That could be a really good place, because a lot of family caregivers, when they do move into an area, they also move their aging adult loved one. So these are just little nuances. It's not necessarily a deciding factor, but what is a deciding factor is the location in terms of where the place is, in terms of income, and I would say the stability of the area. I have seen it where people have had a community, and it was in what is considered a declining market. And so the high prices that they were once commanding in that particular market, they could no longer command. As much as they tried, they couldn't. Because also inside of that area, on the outskirts where the growth area was, there was a lot of new competition coming into the area, new competitors, who was a lower price than what the stable community was, who had been in the market for a long time. So if you're buying a community and they're saying that these are our rates and this is what's happening, you want to ask certain questions like, those are your rates, great, but is those the same rates people pay when they first come in? Are you discounting? Are you giving incentives? What are you doing to keep the occupancy high, or where it's at? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the things that people are saying? And before buying any community, especially if you're doing a residential care home, finding out what that reputation looked like, going online, looking at reviews, trying to see what that reputation management thing is going on with them is super, super important. I had a community in an area. It was three of them, and it was a management company takeover, right? And I say takeover, the investors were releasing the management company, and a new one was coming in. What the new management company did not know in that particular area with those particular communities is that there was a, maybe they knew and they didn't tell me, so there's that. But what ended up happening, the two of those communities had a horrible reputation issue, to the tune of, when I was there and working with my salesperson and a family, the family called the state just to see, what, I'm thinking about moving here. And it was the actual resident, because it offered independent living as well as assisted living. And the resident called, or the prospective resident called the state to find out, if there was any deficiencies, if there was any tags, if they, and to get a feel of what was going on. And whoever they spoke to at the state regulatory agency was like, yeah, I would think twice, deeply and twice before moving into that community. There's a lot of really nice communities in that area. And that's all she said. She didn't say anything bad. She didn't say anything that was total negative, right? Except I would think twice and go look. There's some other really great communities in that area. But it was enough to have these people who had a agreement signing scheduled, yes, we're moving in, to pulling out completely and being like, I don't have a good feeling, because of what that reputation was, not only in the area, but with the person at the state. And so I say that because that same community, when we had an event and I got to meet discharge planners from the hospital, what I found out was that the discharge planners was like, I love your salesperson. They're wonderful. Oh my God, they're great people. But I would never send anybody to your community. So, when I say reputation management is key, it is very key. Even when you own your location, it is key, because bad word get out a lot faster than good, right? We all knew that. It's the age of social media. So again, that needs to be, and I don't find that it is as much, especially when it's an investor purchasing a community and from or an investor looking for a management company and looking at what does that management company's reputation is in different markets, right? Or if it's a new investor coming in, buying a property, looking at reputation management. I rarely in the corporate world saw that was something that was really highly considered. Everybody thinks they can come in and change everything, but they want it to be done yesterday. And so it takes time to redo, reputation. So that's when you come in looking at under new management, there's a whole campaign to address the elephant in the room, or it should be a campaign to address the elephant in the room, because once you do that, you're putting it out there, you're recognizing what it is, and you're able to move it forward. So anyway, that is definitely something to look at. I know I probably went off a little bit on a tangent with that, but it is really, really, really important when you're looking at purchasing a property, or looking at switching management companies, or you're looking at buying an assisted living, looking at what their history is. Market analysis does go into, we talked a little bit about demographic, and that is looking at what in that particular area are you going in. So story time, right? It was a community that was brand new, and they were being built in an area where English was not the primary language. And so beautiful building, but it caused a little bit of a hiccup in the beginning because of the location where it was located. It was right outside of a really high end area, but it was right on the outskirts of it. So the area around it, in terms of the demographic for income level and culturally, it just that's where they got a lot of their business. And so what ended up happening is that investor and management company had to be creative with their pricing to get the community, you know, occupancy up, because they had to flex. These are, like I said, these are the things to think about, right? And if you do your good due diligence in the beginning, then you will have a plan on how to combat that, and overcome some of those challenges once you open. Because now you open, there's money. Money goes out. You have staff, you have some residents, you have food, you have the mortgage, you have all these things. So that's not the time, even though you can't predict everything, but some things like that, where anyone on the street, when I talk to anyone in the area, they're like, yeah, I don't know who told them that was a great idea, because that bridge meant a lot. That bridge had a whole connotation to it from one side to the other, even though it was right over the bridge. So again, that is understanding where you are. And then having a different type of strategy. You have to adjust and pivot when it comes to marketing. So if you do get yourself into a situation where you have purchased a place, or you are an investor of a place and things are happening, being able to pivot is super important, and understand that you have to sit down at the table, look at the data, and then strategize on how you're going to move ahead. Thumbs up. Can you give me a thumbs up? And if you have any questions, put it in the comments. I will answer them, whether it's live or it's on the replay. I will answer the questions. So definitely do that. So we talked a little bit about demographic. I did mention the income area of it, of that area, in the income level. Again, it's not always about the income, because if it's an area where a lot of people own their homes, either or have low mortgages, then there's always an option of selling their home to, pay for their care, which a lot of people do. In the state of Florida, you don't have to sell your home, so to get Medicaid, but in a lot of other states you can, or you have to. So that is, and I don't have my other thing. Let me look one more thing here. Okay. The other thing is looking at who's in the market, what services are around you, is another good thing to do. So we're going to go deeper into competitive analysis tomorrow, and that's going to be like a lot, because I look at 9 different things when I'm looking at my, what I call collaborators, my future collaborators. But the other thing about it is also looking at that helps to decide your niche. That helps to decide what your messaging is, what your value proposition will be. And so I look at 9 different areas, and there's also certain questions that I also ask when it comes to that as well. One of the things that you want to do in your market analysis is find out, especially if you're purchasing an already existing home, and I say home meaning as a business, assisted living, or senior living business already, is find out how are they spending their marketing dollars, and where they're getting their leads from, and what is their sales and marketing plans that they have had. If it's a larger community, you want to see what did they do in the past to get the word out there and to get new residents, because if they've been fed off of let's say, a primary referral source, whether it's a local paid referral source or whether it's a non-paid. The difference is like senior advisors, people who are like real estate agents of the senior care market is what I call it, or senior living market. And so finding out what who they are and if that's where they've been getting their business from. The reason why I say is this, and why it should be a part of that market analysis, is that if you're getting a large number of your residents from a paid referral source, you need to know that. Oh, I see your thumbs up. There it is. Thank you. You need to know that, because the thing is that if something happens with that referral source relationship, that could be detrimental to your flow of leads or flow of families to come to you. So that means that you would need to then come up with a different marketing strategy. All right. The reason why I say that is I had a community and that I was overseeing, and literally 40% of her move-ins came from the local referral source. 40 whole percent. So when that person got COVID and had to go to the hospital, guess what was happening? Because not only 40% of her move-ins was from that local, maybe even 50% of the move-ins, but 40% of her leads, 40% of her leads of the people who was interested came from that local person, because they had a tie in or relationships with skilled nursing and the hospitals, and they were just so rooted in that small community that a lot of their leads came from that one source. So when that source dried up, guess whose business also dried up? So that is why understanding that initially, especially when you're buying into a place, I would say is important. And you should be looking at, okay, in the last year, how many leads did you get per month? How many families inquired? That's what a lead is. How many families inquired about your community? You want to find out, where did those inquiries come from? Were they from digital marketing? Were they from paid referral source? Were they from these different things? So you have that. And then you also want to find out, obviously you should already know this because it should be in the paperwork, but if not, what is their move-ins from those leads? So did they get 20 leads and only one person moved in? Did they get 50 leads and only one person moved in? Because then there's a conversion rate problem, and it could be an internal issue, which, totally understandable. So not understandable, but whatever. It's an internal issue. Things could happen, with the follow-up and things like that. But it also then could be a red flag for the reputation issue. Still not an issue if you have the strategy to make that work. So, but understanding where those leads are coming from and who is the primary referrer source. What are they doing? Are they doing a lot of digital marketing? Because if they are, then you need to know that, because as a part of your market, as you're looking at the market and things like that, you want to know, okay, I'm going to have to spend X amount of dollars in digital marketing in order to keep up with that, right? And if you are too heavy on the paid referral source, you might want to keep that up while you're first new into it, and then start looking at other strategies to get that cost down so that you can make more money in margins. It's all about how you can, serve residents, serve their families, and still have money to live, right? At the end of the day, especially if you're taking some of that money to reinvest, if you're a smaller residential assisted living or a residential care home, personal care home, whatever you want to call it, then you want to buy another home. And so you want to leverage that into another, location. Because typically you're going to need more than one location to make, a good amount of money. It's not going to be off of one home. You need to have multiples in order for you to build up the income that you're wanting. Also thinking about this is, if you're in a market and you want to offer affordable housing, affordable, care for seniors, understanding, again, what is the environment of Medicaid in your particular area that's going to be able to cover for that? And what does that look like? And knowing the process, knowing how to all of that, because I what I've noticed is that some investors are looking at multiple states and getting into this industry in multiple states. That I'm buying houses in this state, this state, this state. Well, every state is different in how they handle their Medicaid dollars and who is qualified and what the process is for getting Medicaid. So you want to know in that particular state that you're operating in if that's one of your strategies to get payment for the care of your residents. Then you need to understand what that looks like. I will say one thing too when I'm thinking about this is that if you're in a high military town, then obviously another way to look at it is how far are you from a VA hospital? Because you're going to have veterans. If you're in a high military town and you have veterans and veterans need help, especially aging, because again, I deal with aging, not just people with disabilities, but aging adults, then you can possibly parlay that as a source, a revenue source or a flow when you're looking at purchasing a home. If you're in a city and you know that there's a military base, find out what kind of homes are around that military base to serve the veterans or where there's a VA hospital or things like that. So, are you still with me? Give me a heart if you're still with me. And let me know if this information is good. So I want to make sure that you're good. So what we said is what to look for in a market. There you go. Thanks, Esther. I think that's Esther. I'm not sure, but thank you. So what to look for in your market. We talked about competition. We're going to go through competitive analysis in a minute, but you want to know as a part of your purchasing a community or being in a community is how many other competitors is in that market. Again, within that 3 to 5 mile area. We talked about the growth area of the city being important. Making sure, depending on your strategy, is it an area, if you're going to do private pay, and again, that goes with value proposition and what's open and things like that, in terms of, are you going to be a luxury type, very concierge, boutique, bed and breakfast, very, that type of community? Are you going to be mid-market where you're serving people who's more middle income and, and or affordable, right? And so understanding what your idea of, which we talked about yesterday, in terms of who are you going to serve, who are you going to start with the occupancy in mind, then that's where the market analysis comes in, because you want to make sure that you have those people, in that area. Looking also at home values. I know I talked about the mortgage side of it, but also the home values in that area will also let you know, depending on what you're looking for. One thing too, just maybe because I'm in Florida, there are some communities that was built or is in location very close to 55 plus communities. So if you're looking at buying a home, let's say you're prospecting, and there is an area where there are several 55 plus communities, or, a few, or it could be apartments where people are, 55 plus, that could be a really great, asset, to look at. Like when you're looking at it, you're saying, these are the 5 reasons I want to be here. And then you name them. Home values, it's 55 plus communities around here. We're right near a skilled nursing facility. We're right also near a hospital. Like that's how, so it's not just one of these, but when you have a cluster of these, then I have a better chance of being successsul. Also, like I said, hospital, physician offices, if it's a big healthcare complex, that is usually a dead ringer for a good opportunity there for a home to be located, and also future growth area for the aging population. And that could be, again, 55 plus communities, or it could be, believe it or not, near a YMCA could be it too, because they have their programs there. So different things like that where you can have meaningful partnerships. So where do you find some of this information? So this will be found by your state's or your city census. And you can look that up on Google. Now, I don't think it's since 2021 is Chat GPT, so it may not be as updated, but I think the latest version of it, I think it's $20 for the month. I think it's a little bit more updated. You can just take a look at that. But looking at the census, going to the chamber, that's where you can find out if new businesses are moving in, where the growth areas of a city is, things like that. Obviously Google, a Google map, you can put in, the address of the home and look for assisted living communities within certain areas of that, and Google will kind of tell you all of that. You can always outsource it to market research companies, especially when it comes to the income demographics and age, demographics of people in that particular area. Third-party research companies can give you that. And then they can also give you some of the marketing tools that go along with it, like email addresses, or looking at certain areas. Then you can go and do certain Facebook ads according to a certain geo area. City planning, they have all what new developments are coming in, and that's really good too. And looking at who are new competitors coming in. If you have a larger community or you're building a community, then that would be something to look at city planning. Believe it or not, sometimes, years before something's built, you kind of know what's coming. And so that is really good. And then one of my favorites is realtors, who have their ears to the ground more than realtors. So realtors always kind of know what's going on. And I would say do both, do commercial realtors as well as residential, because they will be able to tell you what's the area in the town that's happening, what's happening with the housing market, what's going on, where are older people at, things like that. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to end it kind of like around here. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. I will definitely answer them. Tomorrow we're going to go in deeper with the competitive analysis, how to do that, and what to look for in your beginnings of starting with your new place. Again, the whole idea of this is to go into it with eyes wide open. That's all I say. It's not meant to scare you. I hope I don't give you too much information that you're just like, oh my God, it's so overwhelming, because it really isn't. It's really, really small. You can probably do all of this in like about, I don't know, maybe about 3 sheets of just like, okay, breaking it up, right? And what I will do for you, you just gave me an idea. I'll just do a template. Would a template be helpful? If a template will be helpful, just give me like a like this, or like this emoji. Give me a hands up emoji or something like that, or just like one hand up. And that will let me know to kind of do a template of like a checklist, right? Things to look for. I'm going to write that down. So maybe a template. So having a market analysis template would be super helpful. And then that way it kind of can give you an idea of what to look for. All right. So if you don't have any questions or anything like that, I'm praying that this was helpful. It is being recorded. Thank you for my new service provider. I think this is going to be great. I'm going to start utilizing, because then I can upload it on YouTube. And if you have other people that that could find this information helpful, I appreciate you sharing it with them, because at the end of the day, I want everyone to win. I want you to win, Esther. I want, whoever decides that they're wanting to do this business. My goal is to make sure that you're knowledgeable, that you have the things that you're needing, not just before you start, obviously, but for when you open. And so that's where Compass Rose comes into play, because it is an incubator slash accelerator hybrid model, and it's designed to help you through your first year, and even if you've already been open, maybe within your second year of business. It is very specific, with coaches who are experts in the field of operations, marketing, sales, as well as clinical services. If you're open in the independent living community, you may not need the clinical as much, but you still should probably have some of it, because as people age in your independent living, there's going to be some telltale signs that if you're not careful, you can do something and you're not supposed to, and it can get you in trouble. So I want you guys to be fully equipped and fully know what to do once you open your community. So don't look at just going into it, getting licensed, getting the funding and all those things up front, and then saying, okay, now I have it, I'm done. No, you need to actually look at, okay, my first year of business, I'm probably going to need someone to hold my hand because this is your first year of business. And so by having a program like the Compass Rose XL Accelerator program is going to be really important, I think, my goal is for it to hold your hand through that process. So we'll look at your financials, we'll talk about your pricing strategy. We look at the business every 3 months, typically in corporate, and there's a reason why, because if you need to pivot, you need to know. You don't want to wait and go all year and realize you're not making any money. You know what I'm saying? So every 3 months, we're looking at things. We're looking at your financials on a monthly basis, and we review that together. We're looking at your sales and marketing plan on a monthly basis, but we're putting a plan together for 3 months, and we're looking at your market. So it is a group cohort. And we keep it smaller, no more than about 35 to 40 people. So we're keeping it small, so that we can help you and walk you through your business for your, you have to be open about at least 2 months, no more than 2 years, because by then you kind of hopefully have gotten the hang of it. That's on a case by case basis. But it's really for the new startup. Or if you've been open longer and you're really like, I don't know what I'm doing here, this is like not working for me, whatever I've been doing, and I'm less than 50% occupancy still after 3 years, then you need to be in the program, because we want to make sure that you know what you're doing and how to operate, because there could be so many different things. So we look at everything. Like I said, I mentioned operations. Operations is dining services. Operations is your staffing, it's your culture, it's your recruiting efforts. Operation is your activities and what you're doing. All of that is a part of operations. And then you still have your clinical. And still you have to bring people in through marketing. And then when they come in, you have to know what to say and what to do to try and get them to be permanent residents, right? So that is very exciting. We are so excited, myself as well as the coaches, to get going and to help as many of you as possible within the first cohort. And we'll have multiple cohorts throughout the year. But things just like now's a good time to start thinking about your flu clinics and your COVID clinics. And what is the other, there was one other thing that they're doing vaccinations for. But now's the time to start thinking about that. You know what I'm saying? In May, you should have been thinking about what is going to be our menus for the summer that's going to hydrate our residents, not just water, but what foods do we need to start purchasing or looking at purchasing, and how we're going to change up our menus in the summer. And there's just things that you need to do and that you need to think about that a lot of people just don't if you haven't been in this business for a minute. So that's what it is, Compass Rose XL. And I'll put that in the comments below, and you are welcome to peruse it, take a look at it. There is, if you're interested in applying for the program, there is a call that I'm going to get on with you because I don't want you to waste your money. Again, I'm all about making sure that you preserve your money for your business. But if we together decide that it is a good fit for you, then we'll move forward. So I'm looking forward to helping each and every one of you. Thank you, Esther, for coming on board. And if you have any other questions, you're welcome to DM me, or you can put them in the comments below. Thanks again.